so many stories and so many things we can look at for. But often we don't think that maybe we can look at the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet as a way to kind of motivate ourselves. We were just joking earlier, like, oh, I eat when I'm stressed, I eat my feelings away, or I just go take a really long shower or something, which is great. Like, we all have different ways to deal with stress. But we wanted to first start from a spotlight from the Quran. So we chose to talk about Surah Al-Kawthar. In particular, the surah, first of all, because I think most of us know it. You know, it's the shortest surah in the Quran. And I don't know about you guys, but you know, in between class, I'm trying to squeeze in my prayer, and I like resort to, unfortunately, the shortest surahs in my arsenal. You know, not to speed up my like salah, but you know, just to get my salah in. And Surah Al-Kawthar is like the first one in my like toolbox. But you know, I didn't really understand the meaning of this surah until recently, last in May, when I attended an ICNA lecture, and one of the Bayna speakers from Bayna Institute spent like 2 hours just talking about these 3 ayahs. And after attending the lecture, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize while I was speaking through my prayers the depth behind these 3 lines. So I want to share some of the gems that I've learned from this surah. Now it's only 3 ayahs, but to start off, does anyone know the context in which this surah was revealed? Anyone? Yes.
I think the prophet's uncle was like making fun of him because he just lost his son. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had lost his son, and as you guys might know, the prophet had many enemies, but one of his biggest enemies was his own uncle Abu Lahab. And you know, in the Quran, Allah talks about the prophet's enemies a lot, but the only person whose name specifically is taken in the Quran as the prophet's enemy is Abu Lahab. There's even a surah dedicated to him, Surah Masad, so that's kind of scary, you know. But you know, if we think about the context, so I obviously am not married and don't have children, but just to think about the fact of losing like a child, someone you've waited so long to greet into the world, and then you lose that person. And on top of that, someone from your own family, your own blood is celebrating that, is happy about that. Like, it's very sad. I can't even imagine like the emotional stress I would have because of that. And so this surah was revealed right at that time. And usually when surahs were revealed, they were revealed as to give dawah to the people or to give advice about something or regarding like legal matters. But this surah is unique because it was revealed just to give consolation to the Prophet, just to console him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that in 3 ayahs, which is remarkable. And someone might wonder, like, why not like reveal Surah Baqarah to console him? Why 3 ayahs? Well, I think Allah kind of gave us a lesson there that sometimes in our daily lives, you don't want to overwhelm somebody too much. You want to give them their space, but you want to still be there for them, which is what Allah did in these 3 ayahs. So to start off, in the first ayah, basically Allah tells the Prophet that he gave him something, and he said it's Al-Kawthar. Now, does anyone know the word Kawthar? Like, I'm not from Arabic descent, so I am still learning a lot, but does anybody have any idea what that word means? The Arabs? Yes?
It comes from kathir, which means a lot. It's like an exaggerated.
Yes. 2 points to the girls, by the way, the guys are doing right now. But you're right. So the word, it comes from kathir, and then there's other, like, I don't know if you call it derivations or variations of the word, like kathura, kathur, and basically, in an essence, it means much or plenty. And al-kawthar means so much that it's like a glass of water, it's just water is just spilling, almost like Zamzam at the spring. It's just, it won't stop. It's that much. Now, I got a little confused because I was like, wait, the Prophet just lost something, right? So Allah is telling him that he gave him something. Like, what does that mean? So I'm going to go through the other 2 ayahs, and then I'm going to come back to this one because it's like the first line. But the second ayah, Allah told the Prophet to pray and sacrifice and to be optimistic, which, you know, a lot of people will might tell you that when you face a loss, and it's easier said than done, right? It's difficult to be optimistic when you lost something or someone. And then in the third ayah, Allah says not to worry about those who have hurt you, that Allah will take care of those people. So Allah Ta'ala is clearly referring to Abdullah in this instance. Now, to go back to the first ayah. So what is it that Allah gave Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So the Prophet lost his son, right? And the Prophet, often we say like he's the messenger, the last messenger for Islam to spread the message of Islam. And often our religion is called an Abrahamic tradition. Why is it called that? It's because Ibrahim alayhi salam is very important in our faith, right? Now, what is one of the biggest things that he established? We talked about this at our last lecture. Does anyone remember? I mean, he did a lot of things, but what is one major thing?
Yes. This to sacrifice his son Ismail.
That's one thing. And what's another thing? Yes.
He built the Kaaba.
He built the Kaaba. That was also great. But the one that kind of relates to the surah, he built the Kaaba and he did something very important while building the Kaaba. He made a dua. Yes.
He said to make this land a land of monotheistic worshippers, like a land important to Allah.
So he made a very powerful dua, a dua that we should often remember as well. But do you have something to say?
If you want me to say.
So besides that, oh yeah.
Yes, I want to go back to Kawthar. I think in this context it doesn't mean like a lot, but it means like sweet drinks or something. Because the meaning that we know of Kawthar is it's a river in Jannah that was given only to the Prophet.
Yeah, that's also one meaning of it. So to go back to what Armani mentioned with so the dua.
So one less one.
What?
One less point to the guys.
No, they still have. You guys have what, 4? Not that we were keeping going, but we can now.
Would you like?
They're still winning. But, okay, well anyways, so back to the dua. So another part of the dua was he said, "Oh Allah, accept our actions." He didn't know that millions of people every year would go to the Kaaba, and like, perform rituals that commemorate parts of Ibrahim alayhi salam's life. Like, he didn't know that when he was making that dua. It was a time of uncertainty. He didn't know what the future of Islam would be. But he also made a dua that, "Oh Allah, continue this message and continue it through the lineage of Ismail alayhi salam." He made that dua. And how does this all correlate back to the surah? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was trying to tell the Prophet what he gave him is he gave him a legacy and a mission. And not just a mission, any type of mission, a mission that continues his forefathers' mission. That even though he lost his son, he's continuing a mission from his forefather. Who was his forefather? Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam. He's continuing their legacy and their tradition. Like, when I heard this in the lecture, I'm like, mind blown. Like, it's incredible, And how does that relate to us in this time and day? I mean, obviously, we're not the Prophet, but we also face losses. We also have deaths, and we also, even like the death of our GPA, we have different losses and problems that we deal with. But if we look at the other 2 ayahs, where Allah tells the Prophet to pray and sacrifice and to be optimistic, that's it's really important, especially during this time. If we look right now at this time, how much Islamophobia is going on? A lot. Some political candidates are, they need a filter. they don't know what's coming out of their mouth, and they're making it very difficult for us to hold on to our faith strongly, to be positive. Especially not to undermine the brothers, but sometimes for sisters, especially hijabi sisters. I was just reading this morning about how 2 hijabi sisters, one was shot in Florida and the other one was attacked with rocks. It's scary. It's a very scary time, but Allah is telling us that we have to be optimistic. We have to spread positivity rather than negativity. Everyone is pointing fingers at us right now, but we have to stand strong, right? And then in the last ayah, when Allah says not to worry about those who have hurt us, He will take care of them. He's made a promise to us not to worry about those, if anyone is throwing negativity at us, we shouldn't worry about that. We should focus on our positivity. We should focus on how we can be a candle for someone else. So this surah has so much depth, and now every time I read it, I go slow and I'm thinking about the meaning when I'm reciting the surah. But besides that surah, how does Allah tell us to face struggles? Well, if you look at this picture, which I think is really awesome, basically every problem you could have is listed on the left, and then like next to it, it's almost like a phone book. On the right, it's like, even like, okay, it says, if you feel like a loser, Quran 1287. You are tired of hardships, Quran 94:5. You are sad, Quran 2:25. Like every single thing, like every problem, all we have to do is open the Quran. All we have to do is make dua, you know? And sometimes like we don't realize, you know, it's 10:55 p.m., you have a paper due, 12 or at 12 a.m., and you're flipping it, and you're like, oh, I still have to pray Isha. Like, you know, you're in that stressful mode. Sometimes, you know, forget Allah in that moment. You tend to, I'm guilty of this too. I'm like, oh my God, I have to get this paper done. I submit it, and I'm like, oh, I should have prayed Isha earlier. Maybe if I prayed Isha earlier, I would have had like more internal peace. Maybe I wouldn't have been so like nervous and, you know. So the reason we started off from the Quranic perspective is because often as humans we tend to come up with our own methods of dealing with stress, which Daha is going to get into in a moment. So we wanted to just give a small reflection from the Quran. So,
okay, so Assalamualaikum, my name is Taha. So, personal experiences with stress. Obviously, we're college students, so the main source of stress, I would say, for most of us would be school, obviously tests, homework, and all that stuff. And now this is finals week, so it's kind of a crucial period for all of us. So that's like primary source of stress. And then responsibilities outside of school, such as like we have a part-time job that we got to go to. We have like we do something on the side that we're responsible for. And then as Muslim was saying earlier, you know, Islamophobia, social pressures and expectations that are set of us. So Islamophobia, I thought that was like kind of the biggest one at this time and age, where you know everything we're kind of doing is being like that. I wouldn't say like monitor or anything, but you know, especially for the Hijab sisters, like you know, it's a very hard time for us to do. We need to stick to our principles, and with a lot of people who just don't fully understand religion, it's a lot of like, pressure for us. In terms of the expectations, I kind of meant that in terms of like just in general, like what does society expect of us as a man or as a woman, and how does that translate? And if we like step aside these kind of boundaries and what are the pressures that are like implanted on us. Big decisions, I put that in quotes. Like for example, internships, jobs, careers. For example, I'm graduating in May, so like there's a lot of steps like I need to meet, and that's like pressure on me. And just life in general, things just can happen out of the blue. Like I know one of my friends, like her grandfather passed away like a couple days ago, and like that just happened out of nowhere, So just like life just happens, and you gotta learn how to deal with it. Alright, so for ways to deal with stress, we kind of broke it down to like constructive ways and then destructive ways. So we kind of built this together, but we both agreed, talking with friends, talking with other people to just maybe not venting out your stress, but sometimes that might help. But also, just talk about like just like what I've got going on, and just like sometimes if you just take it out of yourself, like it feels a lot better. That's what I feel. So finding somebody else who you can just talk to, say, this is what I'm going through. This is like what's happening to me. And even if they don't have anything back to say, like you'll feel better just saying what you have to say. Another way that we came up with was helping others in general. Like sometimes we feel like we're really stressed, we're really in a low position, but like when you're helping others, you realize that there's people who aren't as good as off as you. And that's a huge point. I feel we take a lot for granted, and just by helping others, and that's as generic as possible. For example, like you'd be helping somebody like study for their final. You'd be helping like somebody just open the door for somebody like that. Like those kind of little acts of kindness, they actually like, make a huge difference in the long run. So those are just great ways to. The feeling of like helping somebody else is a great feeling to have. Taking a walk, going for a run, especially like for example, I know like I study a lot in the library, so if I'm in the library like 5 hours on my laptop, like first of all it's not healthy just to be like sitting down for like 5 hours straight like that. And second of all, like if you like physically get up and just like walk outside or just change your environment that you're in, it's like mentally refreshing just to have that. And going for a run, that's healthy for you. That like boosts your your heart rate and everything, and that's like been proven to show that it stimulates like your mind, like it actually helps. So that's like important to do as well. Going off that, like hitting the gym, like you doesn't have to be like those weights or anything, but just like in general physical activity. I feel like that's not, that's not the first thing that comes to our mind when it comes to dealing with like academic stress in particular. But it helps, like just because that's how the body works. Just because it's mental stress, like when you put like that stress on your body when you're running, when you're like lifting weights, when you're like playing tennis or something, like that helps a lot. Writing, so like both of us write. So writing for like me, it means to like put down my thoughts on like paper and just like get it out of my like head and then put it on paper. And like for me, that's like right, like that's out of my system now, and it helps to like get that out. So it goes with like the talking with friends point we made earlier, just to get it out of your system instead of just like holding it inside you. Cleaning and baking. This is kind of like a form, but I consider it as like healthy procrastination because there's like a good outcome at the end. So like for example, cleaning, like if my room's messy, I'm going to be like, I'll just like clean up some part of it. And in my head, I'm like, right, I'm pushing this assignment off maybe by like 10, 20 minutes, but like I'll feel better because it's like something that I can control. It's something that I have like power over, and that helps for me. And especially for baking, like when I'm.
He added this one. I didn't.
I do bake a lot.
Well, it's like a little bit dilemma because when you bake, you will eat. So like, one constructive.
But see, you can like combine two constructive ones. So
Unless you give to someone else. Unless.
for example, you could bake some food and then you can help others by giving people food,
Yeah,
and then you can clean afterwards. So you can there's more ways to combine. But yeah, no, honestly, and even like if you do bake and you eat some of yourself, like that's pretty. That, for me, that's like an accomplishment. Like yes, it actually tastes good. Like it's good. But so that helps me a lot as well. And praying in general, I think that's it's now generally just like Salat, also like Quran, Dua, the entire like framework, and that was really understated for me. Like I think that was a great point by Kulsum, the internal peace part. Like until like you're satisfied with yourself, like how you are on the inside, then it's gonna be really difficult for you to really focus on your academics and like that kind of stuff.
To add on to the gym part, so like for my personal experience, running is really big for me. Like I'm not a crazy runner, but like at least I try to run at least twice a week. Just because, so for me in high school, like I did track for 2 years, and it was the biggest like mental block actually. And now alhamdulillah it's the complete opposite, but just being under pressure all the time, I used to get a lot of mental stress from the idea of running. And I realized that it kind of represented me having a low like self-confidence about myself in terms of academics and other matters. So when I got to college, I was like, you know what? I need to break down this wall. I need to break down that mental block. And I realized like, okay, my mile time was really bad, but alhamdulillah, from September to now December, my mile time has gotten better by like 3 minutes, which for me is a big accomplishment. And it just builds like some self-confidence for myself. Like, yes, I got this, I can do it. I actually look forward to running rather than not looking forward to it the way I used to in high school. And it kind of gives me more energy to go back to my schoolwork. Because now that I have that confidence, I'm like, yeah, I can do the IEA problem. I can stay up till 2 this morning, do get some more work in. Like, sometimes you just need to reorient your brain so that, because sometimes you go through so much repetition that your brain just gets tired, like the 2-hour lectures. Since I've come to RPI, I'm like, this is so draining, like how can I sit 2-hour lectures? But you just need to switch things up and you have to figure out what your body works best with.
So on the other hand, we have like deconstructive, and I think that goes in the kind of the category that really doesn't help in the long run. For example, just like binge eating, like I know, or lack thereof. Like for example, when I'm really stressed, like I'll stop eating. So like it'll be constructive for me to eat. But like I know a lot of people, they'll start like binge eating, they'll start eating a lot of food, and that's not healthy either. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Sleeping, like again, this could go both ways, but a lot of people used to try to like sleep off the stress. On the other hand, like if we're really stressed and we'll be like up to like 5 to 6 and like not sleeping at all. So like in that case, like you need to know like when to sleep. Like your body needs sleep, and it's important to get that sleep. Even though like we're college, we're just like right, you sleep can wait, sleep can wait. Like if you keep doing that to yourself, like your body will hate you, and it will translate to like less scores and stuff like that. that. So far to